All right, future doctors, welcome. In today's explainer, we are diving deep into the architecture of life itself, carbohydrates. We're going to build them right from the ground up, starting with single atoms and ending with the complex stuff that literally holds you together. It's a wild ride from fuel to form, so let's get into it.
So this is the big question, isn't it? How can something as simple as a few carbon atoms build molecules that do two completely different jobs? One minute they're fueling our cells, and the next they're cushioning our joints. It sounds a little like magic, but as you're about to see, the answer isn't magic at all. It's all about structure.
Okay, so every great building starts with a single brick, right? Well, for carbohydrates, that single fundamental brick is the monosaccharide. So let's start there and get to know our most basic building block.
A monosaccharide is, well, it's pretty much what it sounds like, a single sugar. This is our simplest unit. You literally cannot break it down any further with water. And the most important thing to remember is that its entire frame, its skeleton, is built from a chain of carbon atoms. Everything else, all the complexity we're about to get into, stems from this simple carbon backbone.
So we start telling these simple sugars apart based on one key feature, how many carbons they have. A 3-carbon sugar, that's a triose, like glyceraldehyde, which you'll see all over the place in glycolysis. A 5-carbon sugar, a pentose, like ribose, that's the backbone of RNA. And of course, the 6-carbon hexoses, these are the heavy hitters you already know. Glucose, our body's go-to fuel, plus fructose and galactose. So you see, just counting the carbons is what starts to define what the sugar is and what it does in the body.
Okay, so we've got our individual bricks. But you can't build a house with just a pile of bricks, right? You need some kind of mortar to hold them together. In biochemistry, our molecular glue is called the glycosidic bond.
And the idea here is beautifully simple. One monosaccharide links to another, which links to another, and on, creating a chain. This process is how we scale up from one tiny glucose molecule to the massive, complex carbohydrates that store our energy and literally give our tissues their structure.
Now, what's absolutely critical to get here is that the glycosidic bond is a strong, covalent bond. It's not some flimsy connection. It forms when two simple sugars join up and a water molecule gets kicked out. That's the dehydration part. This one type of link is what allows us to build everything from a simple 2-sugar molecule, called a disaccharide, all the way up to a giant polymer.
And this slide right here perfectly illustrates one of the most important ideas in all of biochemistry. Structure dictates function. Just a tiny, subtle change in the bond's geometry, flipping it from an alpha to a beta position, has massive real-world consequences. Our enzymes can easily chop up the alpha bonds in starch and glycogen to get energy. But those beta bonds in cellulose, plant fiber, our enzymes can't touch them. That one tiny difference is why you can digest a potato, but you can't digest grass.
So just remember, this humble bond is the key. It's the essential link that takes us from the micro world of a single sugar to the macro world of carbohydrates, letting us build this entire family of vital molecules.
So now we can finally step back and look at the whole architectural plan. We've got our bricks, we've got our mortar. Let's check out the different kinds of buildings we can make.
This is how it all builds up. At the very bottom, you've got your monosaccharides, our single bricks, like glucose. Link 2 of them with a glycosidic bond, and you get a disaccharide, like table sugar, sucrose, or milk sugar, lactose. And by the way, lactose intolerance is literally just the inability to break that one specific bond in lactose. Link a few more, say 3 to 10, and you've got an oligosaccharide. And when you link hundreds or even thousands, that's when you get a polysaccharide, a true skyscraper, like our energy reserves, starch and glycogen, or the structural giant, cellulose.
And for our last section, let's look at a really fascinating and clinically super important group of specialized polysaccharides, the glycosaminoglycans, or GAGs for short. These guys take the basic principles we've learned and just run with them.
So what makes GAGs so different? Well, unlike starch or glycogen, which are usually just the same single sugar repeated over and over and over, GAGs are built from a repeating disaccharide unit. So it's a 2-sugar pattern that repeats again and again and again to form these long, unbranched chains that have really unique properties.
And their jobs in the body are incredibly important. You've got hyaluronic acid, which is basically the lubricant that makes the synovial fluid in your joints slippery. Chondroitin sulfate is a massive part of cartilage, acting like a shock absorber, and you can just imagine its role in something like osteoarthritis. Then there's heparin, a powerful anticoagulant you'll use in the hospital every single day, and keratin sulfate, which is crucial for keeping your corneas transparent.
Yeah, the big takeaway here is to think way beyond just energy. These gags are like precisely engineered, high-performance biological materials. They're lubricants, they're shock absorbers, they're even signaling molecules. And they're all built from these modified sugar units.
So if you remember one thing, just one single thing from this entire explainer, let it be this. Structure dictates function. From the number of carbons in a sugar, to the alpha or beta orientation of a single bond, to the repeating two sugar units in a GAG, every little structural detail is what defines that molecule's job in the body.
And that leaves us with one last thought to chew on. As we get better and better at understanding this molecular architecture, what's next? Could we design synthetic carbs to actually repair cartilage? Could we create new anticoagulants that have fewer side effects? The blueprint is right there, in the bonds. And the future of medicine might just be written in sugar.